Hello, everybody. Jason W. It is Revolutionary Cave. On this glorious Sunday, that's right, it's Sunday here on the big show, and coincidentally, what better to talk about on a Sunday than Sundays? That's right, Sundays of the past, Sundays of your childhood, Sundays in the 80s. Now, traditionally, Sundays were the day, the day of the week, maybe the one day of the week that everybody was home with not a whole heck of a lot going on, right? It was Sunday. Now, maybe for some families, for many families, maybe even most families, Sundays was a church-going day. That's right, you wake up bright and early, maybe you have breakfast before church, you get dressed in your Sunday best, and you go to church. That didn't happen in my house on Sundays. No, indeed, we did not. We did not attend church service on Sunday at any point in my childhood. So Sundays was kind of a letdown, at least for a kid in the 80s, because I think all of the joy had been exhausted on Saturday, right? The television was certainly much more entertaining on Saturdays. You had your Saturday morning cartoons, you had your wrestling. For me, I had the Professional Bowlers Association on Saturdays. Usually your nighttime lineup was pretty good, and you were staying up late. For me, I was in my room playing with the LJNs, watching my cable television at all of 9 or 10 years old, and, falling asleep whenever. But it seemed like the whole day, the Saturday was like everybody was ready for fun. But then Sunday, everybody was kind of on a down slope. For most of us, it was because we went back to school the next day. And I think for many adults, it was you went back to work the next day. So you knew that your evening was going to begin a little earlier than it did on Saturdays because, you got to get to bed early to get up for school the next day, right? And the same thing for the adults. So it felt like the vibe in the neighborhood on Sundays was flat. Not all the kids were available to come out and play. Maybe they were visiting their grandparents. Maybe Sunday was aunt and uncle visiting day. Maybe they were tied up with church and then the breakfast or the lunch afterward or whatever. And I don't remember having a whole lot of fun on Sundays. In fact, Sundays was probably the worst day of the week for television in the 80s. No cartoons on in the morning. Pretty much all of your local channels from like 7 a.m. until maybe 11 or noon were church services and other, religious programming. Televangelists and things like that would dominate the early morning television lineup. Lots of news, I remember, on Sunday mornings, world news and financial discussions. Television was awful on Sunday mornings, except at 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock, right? 11 a.m. and 12 a.m. So I have always, been a bowling fan. And on Sunday mornings in Rochester, we had a local kids bowling show called Fun Time Youth Roll-Offs, or Fun Time Junior Bowling, I think. Yeah, that's right. It was Fun Time Junior Bowling. And then that was followed at noon by the adults in the TV roll-offs. That's where I got the roll-offs part. So Fun Time Junior Bowling at 11, the TV roll-offs at noon, and it was all like local guys. I remember the bowling alley. One of the bowling alleys would host. It's a tournament, so you would pay to get in. You'd qualify. Process of elimination. There'd be a few guys left over at the end of the week, and those guys would make the TV show. And you'd win, $300 or $400 for first place. The kids won. You had to be in a bowling league, and your bowling center had to nominate you for the show, I guess. I never got to be a part of it. I was a part of the audience once, but I was never actually on the show. But that was fun for me, as a kid, watching those two bowling shows, and I watched them, pretty faithfully. But after that, or prior to that and after that, it was downhill television. Television was awful. Now, there was a pretty good chance that we were at my dad's on Sunday mornings because he would have us on weekends. And it wasn't any better being with him because that was like visiting day. So he would take us to his mother's and we would just die of boredom. I mean, we would try to play outside. Again, television was pretty miserable and there were no friends around. So, Sundays at my dad's was kind of dreadful. Wrestling came on. I remember USA All-American Wrestling was on at noon on Sundays, and then Saturday or Sunday night, the NWA would have, their Sunday version of, whatever syndicated show was on. But again, the mood on Sundays was just pretty flat. And I remember becoming, pretty depressed, like around 6:30 on a Sunday, because it's over. Your weekend's over and you're going back to school. So you've got to go through the whole Sunday night ritual, the whole preschool night ritual of showering, pick out the clothes you're going to wear for tomorrow, get your clothes all set. And then it was like bed. And I feel like we went to bed earlier on Sundays than we did any day of the week. Like my mom was just like done with us at that point. You guys are getting to bed early. You stayed up late last night watching your Saturday night's main event. You're going to bed. And I feel like we were in bed, under the covers at like, 9 o'clock. But that allowed for American Top 40 to be playing in all of our bedrooms across the country. That's right, American Top 40, hosted by none other than Casey Kasem, the top 40 of the biggest songs on the Billboard chart for that particular week. And that was it's not must-see TV, that's must-hear radio. The American Top 40 was fantastic. That was our opportunity to hear all of our favorite songs in 1 2-hour block. And I believe I'm pretty sure it started at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. on Sunday nights. It was definitely on Sunday mornings also. They would just repeat the show later in the night. But we would lay in bed. I would lay in bed. I'd have my little boom box right next to the bed, and I would lay there. And I remember like getting into bed around number 15 or something like, when I was going to bed, it was pretty late in the countdown. So the more popular songs were playing. And if I happened to have a blank tape, I would lay there and I'd wait to hear, my favorite song, and then press the play and record button down at the same time. And I would capture that song. Now you're thinking, well, you're not thinking because you're watching the channel, you're not thinking this, but now today's people would be like, well, who cares? Everything's on demand right now. But in the 80s, if you had a favorite song, you either owned the cassette that it was on, or you just hoped and waited that it would play on the radio. Other than that, you didn't hear it. You didn't, you didn't go download it. It wasn't on iTunes. You didn't hear it. And so the American Top 40 was pretty much your opportunity to hear your favorite songs, and make a tape of them and make your awesome mixtape 85, and then tape over it 56 more times in the life of the tape. But American Top 40 was definitely the highlight of Sunday night. Late 80s, a new Sunday night highlight happened for me, a little show called America's Funniest Home Videos, hosted by Bob Saget of Full House fame. And again, this is obviously pre-internet, so we are not used to seeing this kind of thing. We're not used to seeing home videos of other people. We don't see videos of people falling. We don't see videos of people getting hurt or getting sprayed with whipped cream. You don't see that. Now the concept is dead because it's all over YouTube. My kids are watching funny fails almost every day. And I'm thinking, wow, I watched this in its initial concept, and I watched the prototype of this, America's Funniest Home Videos. And because we were so unexposed to that sort of humor, watching other people mess up, I remember laughing absolutely hysterically. I remember going into, convulsions, laughing so hard at the America's Funniest Home Videos. Because again, it was people falling, it was people, blowing out a birthday candle and their hair catches on fire. I mean, having never seen that before, I found it to be unbelievably hilarious. And so that became the new Sunday night tradition, was America's Funniest Home Videos, which I think it's either still on or it only recently ended. I mean, I think that had a pretty long run. Again, late in the 80s, The Simpsons appeared on Sunday night, and that kind of changed, again, the Sunday night lineup. But to me, it also transitioned us into the 90s, because into I think who we are today, because it was pushing the envelope a lot maybe for the time, and it just started to lead us into kind of the, I don't know, the who cares generation, or the get over it generation, that I think The Simpsons might have introduced us to regression as a species. Not that I have anything against The Simpsons. I think they're great, but that innocence, we started to see that innocence go away a little bit with The Simpsons. In fact, I went to a store and bought a Simpsons shirt, but I bought the one that said, it had Bart on it. He was holding a skateboard, and it said, "I'm Bart Simpson. Who the hell are you?" And I thought that was the most vulgar, I'm getting away with murder t-shirt. And I think I wore it to school a few times, and I think the kids loved it, but like everybody else hated it. And it was almost like I was, and now it's, I see some of the most ridiculous, phrases on shirts and things like that. But, so Sundays, again, there was just a black cloud over Sundays, I think, because of school. And today, Sundays, from September to April, Sundays are great because my son and I bowl in a bowling league. And I stay up late on Saturday night, and we get up together and we get ready for bowling. After bowling, Sundays are dead. Sundays are even dead now as an adult. I don't watch football anymore. The kids have nothing to do. They play with their friends. They're on Fortnite all day. We're getting yelled at by their mother constantly throughout the day because we didn't clean something or we didn't do something. Sundays are dead in this house, even in 2024. But looking back, they always have been. Not my favorite day of the week, Sundays. Not at all. Not at all. Your memories of Sundays as a child in the 80s down below. Did your parents drag you off to church and make you wear those uncomfortable clothes? Or did you just lay around the house like a non-church going person like I did? Anyway, put your Sunday memories below. We'll see you next time. Good night now.